Hey, what's up, everybody? I ran a 6-hour timed race this weekend and I actually won third place overall. It might come with a little bit of an asterisk, but hey, I've never won an award in a race before, so I'll take it. $50K! Woo! So I ran the 6-hour Run Under the Stars race here in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, where I live. The park's only about 10 minutes away from my house, so it was a no-brainer to sign up for this race. I already released a video that was all scripted by ChatGPT. I just gave it a short little prompt and said, give me some narration and some camera shots to document this race. So check that out. I thought the result of that was pretty cool. Leading up to this race, I just ran the Knoxville Marathon 4 weeks ago, and I just missed my PR by a minute, and I missed going under 4 hours. I ran 4:05. So I considered giving it another shot at this race, but knowing that it was a pretty quick turnaround from a really hard effort, I didn't think my body could stand up to another beating like that so quickly. So I kind of changed my plans and decided I was going to shoot for a 50K PR. And most of the 50Ks I've done have always been on pretty hard trails in the mountains, lots of elevation gain. And I've never really trained that hard for those, so I'm not really racing them. I'm just out there to enjoy my time and enjoy the views and stuff. So my 50K PR before this weekend was like 6 hours and 40 minutes. It was just on a training run with some friends, but still being well trained from the marathon, I knew that I could probably go under 6 hours. With the park being so close to my house, I spent a lot of runs in the past few weeks running that loop just to get familiar with it. I had a friend named Mark who was going to run the 12-hour race, and so we met up there and did some training runs. Kind of figured out the places we want to walk. He actually did the race last year, and he said it just worked out well to walk the sections that have concrete. The race is on a gravel 1.2 mile loop in the park here. So walking the concrete ended up being maybe about 0.2 of the 1.2 miles. So I was going to be a good, short little walk breaks here and there every lap, just to help keep our heart rate down and make sure we weren't being too out of control with our pace. As far as clothing and gear for the race, it was going to be really hot for pretty much the whole time I was running. I think it was about 72 degrees Fahrenheit when we started, and I don't think it got below 60 by the time I was done. So I just wore shorts and a tank top. I started out with a hat to kind of keep the sun out of my face, but then after that, I switched to a couple different buffs that I had been sitting in ice water, so they would help keep me cool. I wore my Hoka Clifton 7 shoes. They were just comfortable, and I knew that I could run in them for a long time. I had brought a change of clothes and an extra pair of shoes to change into if I felt like I needed to, but I just never really felt like that was necessary, and I didn't really want to waste the time because I knew it was going to be tight to get that 50K in 6 hours. As for gear, I didn't really need anything because it's such a short loop. You don't need a pack to carry anything with you. Really, the only gear that I had was my GoPro and my phone, and I grabbed that a few times and would carry it for a loop and then set it down. But other than that, didn't really need any gear for this race. Like I said, all the nutrition you can pick up at the aid station every time you come around on a loop, so about every 15 minutes or so. That's a real huge benefit of a short loop time race. As far as nutrition, this was kind of a new thing for me, running a race that starts at 6 p.m. So I didn't really know what to do throughout the day. I just had kind of what I'd say a regular breakfast and lunch. I tried to make sure I drank a little bit of extra water throughout the day. I made a a serving of goo octane so I could get some extra electrolytes before the race, knowing that it was going to be so hot and I was going to be sweating a lot. I mixed a few servings of the goo octane to take with me, and I took a few like Payday candy bars, and a couple just goo gel packets to supplement what they were going to have at the aid station, which was plenty. They had their electrolyte drink, which is called Sword, and I've had that before, and that's pretty good. Obviously water, and then they had all, you know, typical aid station foods, you know, bananas, oranges, potato chips, some candy. Later on in the race, at about 10 o'clock, they got some pizza, and I was kind of hitting a low point then because I hadn't really eaten that much up to that point. So I grabbed a slice, and man, that was magic. That really helped lift me out of that low and get me back moving like I needed to be. So I got over to the race at about 5 o'clock. Just I was nervous to, you know, get over there and get set up and just be able to sit and relax for a while. Went over to the check-in where I got this hat and this t-shirt, and, you know, got my timing chip. We had to wear a chip on our shoe in addition to the bib. So yeah, set up my chair and had a cooler there. Mark brought a little pop-up canopy tent, and we just set that, you know, right next to the course, so we could just grab whatever we needed every time we went by. There is a temptation having a chair there to, you know, just sit down and take breaks, but I think we did pretty well. I think we only sat down one time to get some gravel out of our shoes. But other than that, it was kind of walk by, grab what we need, and keep on moving. So we lined up with all the other runners, you know, a few minutes before 6, and counted down, and off we went. Like every race, we started a little bit too fast, but like I mentioned, we had those kind of built-in sections where we knew we were going to walk, so that helped us keep our pace under control. The first hour, we covered just about 6 miles, so we were doing a 10-minute mile. Our goal was to just be somewhere around 10:45 to 11-minute miles, but we still felt really good. We were conversational, our heart rates were pretty low, so we didn't feel like we were overdoing it too much. Did kind of realize that we were not eating or drinking anything. I had eaten a goo and drank a serving of the goo octane right before we started because I forgot to eat dinner before I went to the race, which I didn't think was that big of a deal because usually when I run in the mornings, I'm not eating breakfast before that, so that was fine. And that was enough to get me through the first hour, but then I realized I needed to start drinking more because I was sweating a lot just because it was so hot. So at least every other lap, if not every lap, I was getting some water or some Sword, or grabbing my water bottle and carrying it with me for a loop and just sipping on that. So first hour was good. Second hour was more of the same. I think we covered about 5.8 miles. So we were just under 12 for 2 hours, and we were making great pace. Still both felt really good. For hour 3, we slowed down a little bit because we decided to add another little walking section. So the course is kind of like a lollipop with a figure 8. And so every time you start a new loop, it was about a half a mile run before you got to that first concrete section. So we kind of put a little, like, maybe 0.05 of a mile section, like right in the halfway point of that. So that slowed our pace down a little bit, but we still did, I think, 5.2 miles. So at the 3-hour mark, we were 17 miles in, and like I said, still felt pretty good, but definitely was feeling some fatigue. I was starting to have a few muscle cramps, but that was just because I wasn't drinking enough. So I really tried to focus on drinking a lot of electrolytes for that next hour. Going into hour 4, I knew I only had to do 14 miles in 3 hours, which I don't know what that math is exactly, but it's like 13 or 14-minute mile average. But I really wanted to push it and see what I could do. Well, unfortunately, I had a few bad miles in hour 4 that were like 14 and a half minutes. I think we only did like 4.7 miles for that hour. So that got us to 21.7. But if we did that same pace, we were barely going to make the 50K by the 6-hour point. And typically when you start slowing down, you continue to slow down more. So I was a little worried going into the start of hour 5. But after the pizza and, drinking a lot of extra electrolytes and water and a few other snacks, we started kind of getting back in our groove for hour 5. We got back to about the 12-minute miles. We finished that hour just over a marathon, I think 26.5 or 0.6. So I kind of knew I had the 50K in the bag. Up till that point, I had ran pretty much the entire race with Mark. We had a few times, we'd finish the loop, we'd go by the chair. One of us would stop for a few seconds, the other one would continue on, and then we would, eventually catch back up within the next, the first quarter mile of the loop or so. This time going into the start of the 6th hour, Mark stopped off and I kept going. I got a little ways into the loop and I looked back and I didn't see him coming, but there's a lot of really short sections in that figure 8, and it was dark, so it was kind of hard to see. Eventually I looked back and he had caught up when I had started walking, and he just kind of waved me on. I was like, go get your PR, and because he knew I really wanted that, and he had 7 more hours to go, so he had to kind of pace himself so he could hit his goal, and not completely blow up for the second half of his race because he went too hard pushing me. I decided I had to really kind of pick it up myself and push hard for a couple miles at least. I did a mile that was about 11:30, and I did one that was like low 12s, and then I kind of got to the point where I knew I had it as long as I didn't completely blow up. So when I was running, I just kept telling myself, I don't have to run fast. I just have to do something that's sustainable. Just, walk each section and then just run for just a few minutes, to the next walking section. So I did that, and I was able to get a few more miles under 13 minutes. And then I came across the finish line with 1 lap remaining to get the 50K. I had 20 minutes left on the clock to do it. And I'd been doing about 15-minute laps, so I knew I was fine. But Mark and I had been talking kind of all throughout the race about, what are you going to do in those last few minutes? Are you going to kind of walk it in and barely get it, or are you going to push yourself a little bit to see what you can really do? So I kind of maintained around that last lap, and I got the 50K PR in 5 hours and 55 minutes, which was 45 minutes faster than my previous, which is a huge improvement, but you also have to take into account the courses that I've been doing compared to a flat looped course where I don't have to carry anything with me. But still, I was super happy to get under 6 hours. It was 5:57 when I crossed the timing mat to complete that loop. And once you don't have time to do a full 1.2 mile loop, they have that short little lollipop loop, which is about 0.2 miles, and they say, you can, however many laps of that you can complete, in the last few minutes you have, do whatever you can, and we'll add that distance to your total. So I had 3 minutes, and I was, running across the finish line, excited for my 50K, and I decided, you know what, I'm gonna go do one bonus loop, 0.2 miles. So I did that. My final distance was 31.47 miles on my watch. I think race official, I had like 31.3 or 31.4, which is pretty incredible how close my watch was to the actual race distance. So after my time was up, I went over to where they were announcing the top 3 male and female award winners for the 6-hour race. And I chatted with the guy before the race started to kind of see what his goals were. And he said he was hoping to run a sub 4-hour marathon and then kind of see what he could do for the last 2 hours. Well, he probably lapped me like 5 or 6 times, and I asked him how he did, and he said he thought he got second place with like 38 or 39 miles, but he thought some guy had ran 40. When they announced first place, they said that guy was the winner, and he said, oh, I thought I was second, but it turns out that the guy that had ran a little bit more than him had also registered for the 12-hour race, and because of that, the race directors had decided that you're only eligible for awards in one race, and so they weren't going to allow that guy to win the 6 hour and the 12 hour. So therefore, the guy I had chatted with was the winner. Then they announced second place with 32.5 miles. And I kind of started wondering, I said, I wonder what third place got, or how close I would be to that. And lo and behold, they announced Carrie Allen third place. And I was like, what? No way. But sure enough, I guess I edged out another guy by just like 1/10 of a mile, or maybe 2/10 of a mile. Maybe he didn't do that last bonus loop. And so deciding to push myself even all the way through the last minute actually probably made a difference of me winning an award, which was the first time I've ever won an award at a race. So it's this cool little glass, it's etched inside. It says Run Under the Stars, Oak Ridge, Tennessee, 2023, third in the 6 hour. And it sits on this little base that if you turn it on, you might not be able to see it, but it's got like a red and then blue and just changes different colors. So it's actually a pretty cool award. Super excited that I won it. And then, of course, you get the race medal afterwards, and they, kind of put this little custom sticker on there with your distance. So overall, I was super happy with the results of that race. I hit the goal that I set, which is always a great thing and a great feeling. Going forward, I actually am doing another race this weekend coming up. And we'll have a video for that one. It's the Grayson Highlands 50K. Originally, I was going to do the 50 mile, but I decided to drop down in distance because of, shooting for a goal that this weekend. Figured I'd be reasonable and only do 50Ks in back-to-back weekends. So I'm really looking forward to that one. That'll be a lot different. It'll be a race in the mountains, which I haven't really trained for much this year, but I think all the run training that I've done for the marathon and, maintaining through this past month to be able to hit this 50K PR will serve me well in that race. So be on the lookout for that, and hope you enjoy your running and hit your goals. We'll talk to you soon. See ya.
Yeah, the flashy.
So Carrie Allen,
What?
you were third.
No way.
Yeah,
All right.
Third with 31.23.
I did not expect that.
Thank you so much. He edged me out by like 0.02.
Oh, man.
I did that extra loop.
Hey, have fun.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. You'll get your medal for you. Okay, for women.
Didn't expect that.
Yeah.
I was just pushing for the 50K, but I kept getting lapped by a bunch of people. They must have all been in the 12. I got one already.
Yeah, same.
I was like, I figured I was in like 10th place with how many people were lapping me.